Hello everybody and welcome to this unboxing. In this one we're going to be looking at the Armoured Fist box, the British forces for Flames of War mid-war. And this has tons of stuff in it. I think probably one of the best variety of things that has come out for mid-war with the latest release, the version 4, the big book. But yeah, without further ado, let's crack it open and see what we've got. So in the Armoured Fist box, we're getting a good variety of vehicles here. We're getting some Churchills, we're getting some Crusaders, we're getting some Lees as well, some Valentines, Dingo, a couple of Hummers, and some artillery. So I would argue that this is one of the most varied boxes available for the mid-war out of the 4 that I've been looking at, plus the two-player starter sets, simply because you're getting a nice variety of infantry tanks, American Lend-Lease, and cruiser tanks as well. So you're getting fast, you're getting heavy armor, you're getting reliable shots, you're getting some artillery, and you're getting some reconnaissance as well. Very much feels far more like a combined, a mixed combined force, which is really interesting. Now, it's also one of the bigger boxes as well. There's a lot of sprues in here. So, oh, I don't like this part because I never get these back into the box. All right, there we go. Okay. So let's move the pile of plastic to one side for a moment and we'll look at the Start Here booklet. So interesting to see what this list is going to be. It ranges at 93 points. That's really good. A couple more units on top of that. I would recommend some infantry to throw into this list, make it 110 or 120 points, and I would say you are good for tournament level play. As far as I can remember anyway, about 120 points for World War II stuff anyway. And as I said, you're getting a lovely mix of different armor types, different guns, various degrees of reconnaissance and stuff like that as well. So very interesting. This should be able to take on most army lists as it stands. Add a bit of infantry in there. You've got plenty of anti-infantry with your artillery, your reconnaissance, and your infantry tanks as well. That can basically face hug a lot of infantry if you're lucky. So yeah, plenty of stuff in here. Always hold on to this. Particularly when you're building straight from the box as well, and it also gives you an idea of where to go to next. It recommends a TOG in here. To me, that's a strange decision. I would have said, because this box doesn't have Shermans, I would have been recommending some Shermans for that. Start to remove perhaps some of your smaller stuff like your Crusaders, replace Crusaders with Shermans instead of looking at a TOG, but hey, TOG's an interesting vehicle. It's not a meme for no reason. So move that to the side. Then we have our A5 rulebook, a couple of decal sheets that have roundels and stuff on it, including your squadron markings, your regiment and whatnot in there, and your divisional markings for 7th Armoured too. Inside that is your stat cards as well. That will contain all the stat cards needed to build everything in this box. So if you're looking at tweaking an army list, I recommend you go and get the unit card box as well. That gives you a complete set and lets you theory hammer out a few things, a few ideas of where you might want to take your army list after this. Now, what we're actually here for is the sprues. So let's start with the Lee or the Grant. And we'll just bring the camera in a little tighter here as well, let you get a look around it. I like having it in this light green plastic instead of the yellow that it came in the 2-player starter set. This is just a nicer looking plastic, easier to see your parts, and the tank doesn't look as toyish as it does in a brighter yellow. So you have all the options in here to make your Lee or your Grant, so your American or your British versions. Plenty of things to play around with in here, lots of nice detail. This kit is a little bit more fidgety because you've got small pieces like this. You have your turret, different turrets, you've got which hatches you want to use, optional parts for the guns. Do check your build manual for which gun you're going to be fitting. Just in case. I know I'm a bit of a rivet counter myself. I would always want to make sure that the guns are correct, depending on which variant I'm running. So, yep, there's that. So that's the Grant. Nice kit. You get a few of those, so we'll move a few of those sprues to one side. And then we'll look at our Crusader. Crusaders are a lovely vehicle. Again, we have gun options in here right up to, I believe this is a 75mm, or what the British would call a 6-pounder. I'm not too sure, I think it is. We have a 37 and a 47mm main gun, along with the Beza machine gun as the coaxial. A good all-round kit, again, quite easy to build. These skirts on the side are very, very easy to apply. Very easy to glue on. They have a little notch in there that slips in underneath the mudguards, or the side mudguards a little bit, and just makes a nice tight bond when you glue it all down. Options, apart from your guns, you don't really have many options. You have hatch open, hatch closed, basically on these two turret tops, depending on which gun you're going for. And yeah, that's all you really need. You have the options to put your tank commander in there too. Again, another nice simple kit. Good to see Battlefront keeping it nice and easy. So we have a few of those to move out of the way. Quite a few of those. Now, we'll get on to the 25-pounder here, because the 25-pounder sprue, according to the army list, you're only building it as a 25-pounder, which is fine. But if you really feel like it, you have options for a 17-pounder as well. The early model of the 17-pounder was put onto a 25-pounder carriage and towed around that way. If you're going for pure mid-war, if you're a purist mid-war guy, you want to go for the 25-pounder without the muzzle brake on it. The early version of the field gun didn't have a muzzle brake on it. If you watch any footage of them firing back in the day, the recoil was tremendous off these before they put the muzzle brake on, which is up here on the sprue as well. Not sure when they started applying the muzzle brake to the 25-pounder, probably mid-43 maybe. Something like that. We've also got the parts in here for the limber. I believe it's the limber. Yes, we have enough wheels and stuff. So you have the limber in here as well. Really just a piece. It's kind of like a diorama piece to add to the gun base. Not necessarily needed, but it's a lovely detail to have, because where else are you going to carry your ammunition but in a limber? And you have the parts for that. So that's your 25-pounders. And something fell off one, which is great. On to our Valentine. So I'm actually filming this in February. That's great. It's my Valentine tank. A very quirky vehicle, very interesting little vehicle. Again, we have a few options in here for different gun types. I think we have the 6-pounder. That's the long barrel. I think we should have a shorter barrel in here, unless we're running. I think these are the other barrel options for 2-pounder guns, because we have 2 or 3 variations of gun mantlet down here, which will accept the other guns. I'm wondering if you can be clever enough to potentially magnetize this up a little bit, depending on what variants of Valentine you want to run. Again, a nice easy kit. I haven't built one myself yet, but low parts count kits are always great, particularly with Battlefront's model design team. They do a fantastic job of giving you enough detail to make the tank very fun to paint, very fun to build, and also keep that build simple and effective as well. So that is those out of the way. And now we're on to our Daimler and our Daimler armoured car and our Daimler Dingo. The Dingo is the cutest vehicle. The absolute cutest vehicle. It's about the same size as a Jeep, an American Army Jeep, but is armoured, and that makes it hilarious because it can go... It's a very versatile little vehicle with a reversible gearbox, so it has every speed forward and backwards. It's great. The Daimler armoured car is one of those, to me anyway, is an iconic British armoured car design. It's got the 2-pounder gun in it. It also has this little device on the end of the gun barrel to increase muzzle velocity. Again, look at your build guide and it will tell you which gun you want to be using. Kind of ups the anti-tank rating a little bit on this one, I think, maybe. The Dingo is a great little reconnaissance vehicle. A very low parts count on the Dingo. Absolutely great. Easy to put together. Get a crew member in there, make it look like it's got a driver in there, or a guy sitting on the top. You're on to a winner. All in all, again, very nice, easy kit to build. Plenty of detail. And yeah, you should enjoy building those, no problem. And we get 2 sprues of those. Now, We get on to the big boy of the box, arguably the big boy of the box. This is the Churchill. I believe this is what it says here on the sprue is the Mark II and Mark III Churchills, coupled with what they're calling the common sprue, so the common Churchill sprue with the Mark II, Mark III variations on it. Later Churchills go up to Mark VIIs and beyond. This one is really focusing on having a 2-pounder or a short 90mm, I think, for infantry support, depending on the variation or the variant of the vehicle. Again, pretty straightforward with just separate tracks, lower hull, upper hull, and the details required, as it says, commonality parts to fit onto the Churchill. We do get the standard, I think this is the 75mm or the 6-pounder gun for the turret. But down here we get the specific Mark II, Mark III variants as well. Good detail all round. I love seeing all these multi-wheeled vehicles that the British brought out, particularly this and the Valentine, different sized wheels and stuff. Very cool. Looks like an old design, but was actually designed for a World War II battlefield as an infantry tank. So yeah, pretty interesting, quite a nice kit. And I believe with the Churchills talked about, we're just down to looking at gun crews, which are in the Battlefront resin. I can't praise this resin enough. These figures are great, fantastic detail, and because they're resin, they're easy to sort out. They don't have a lot of flash in them. And again, they're choosing resin because they're having to vary so many uniforms. So you have, for example, with the Italians using 88s, you have Italian gun crews for those, as well as German ones. These guys are obviously Western Desert because they're wearing their shorts, but you'll also have to have gun crews for Europe and winter and so on. And I think resin is the cheaper option for them instead of making plastic sprues every time. And I would prefer Battlefront to be focusing a lot more of their infantry in this material. And I think they're doing that, so that's good. And then the final sprues we have in here are your tank commanders and vehicle crew. So you want a driver in the Dingo, you'll fit one of these guys in there somewhere. It's a very small vehicle though. And finally, bases for your 25-pounders. Not much to write home about here. Just find a place to put the gun and the limber on it and you're good to go. So let's switch back out to the front and close off. So there you are. I hope it's been an interesting one. I do tank gibberish a lot more in these videos, funnily enough, than actually talk about the quality of the models. Mainly because most of these models, or if not all of these models, have been out for several years at this point. So going over model quality on something that has been out and we've talked about previously didn't really fit the video style that much. However, I know some people also like the tank gibberish. So in general, yes, I think this is a very interesting box. You're going to get a lot of bang for your buck out of this one. What would I do to complement it? Infantry. Infantry every time. I would probably drop the Valentines from this box. I'd keep the Churchills for sure. I'd keep the Reconnaissance. I'd keep the 25-pounders. I think the Valentines and possibly the Crusaders, I would drop maybe over time. I would definitely play with them, play a few games with them for sure. I'd definitely paint them up and I'd enjoy doing that. And I think over time, if I wanted to adapt the list a little bit, I'd actually start to progress it as the British Armoured Forces progressed, slowly getting rid of those vehicles or slowly shifting those vehicles that aren't as effective anymore away and bringing in more of the likes of the Shermans and stuff like that. Even the M3s, you would eventually want to replace with Shermans if you're adapting your list. Even into the Italian campaign, you're probably going to be looking at a higher rate of Shermans in your British forces at that point. However, this complements the 2-player starter set, the Tobruk starter set, rather well. It gets you more of what the British forces wanted at the time, which was armour and American-built armour as well on top of that. However, you've got a lovely mix of reconnaissance, light armour and heavy armour in there too, particularly with the Churchills. Absolutely great move every time. But let me know what you think in the comments, and until next time, take care and see you soon.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.